Eileen, does this go on closed circuit too, or only on YouTube?
It goes on the close. I was going to send the link. What happens is I get the link for the video, I send it to the person who broadcasted it. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah, so I'm actually going to do that right now.
It's been glitchy for a while.
I think it's very glitchy. I really have no, I was following the steps, and even when we were doing the preliminary stages of doing tests, it stayed glitchy.
Yeah.
But we worked on that.
Oh, then you did the second one, okay. Well, then you wait and do it. Nothing to issue.
No.
And they know better. Earl is more government.
I know, it's another you only get 3.5 weeks vacation. You just get a different brand of kids up.
All right. Call this meeting to order.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
We'll get down to the point of the people. Hey, Nancy, you are in the meeting. And Dave Nickett is equal sign off. All right. Roll call. Peter Denmark.
Here.
Victor Shen.
Here.
Monty Irvin.
Here.
Dave Dixon.
Here.
Deborah Hicks. Here. Dave Pinkish.
Here.
And Dan Blair.
Here.
Can I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Approve tonight's agenda.
I'd like to make a change to the agenda. Moving B to C.
What's the two items? So we're interested. Second. Second.
Yeah, second.
And that was moving item C to be just switching the items.
Switching D and C. Call for vote.
Colleen Burgood, Dave Dixon,
Yes.
Monty Irvin,
Yes.
Peter Denmark,
Yes.
Victor Shen,
Yes.
Deborah Hicks. Yes. Dave Pinkish.
Yes.
And Dan Blair. Yes. Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to new business and city employee. Start the flow chart. Mr. Mayor, do you want to start the address that? You have to have it on the agenda.
No, I'll just let.
He said no, listen.
Huh?
He said no, just listen.
Okay. Then, if you didn't ask to put it on there, then who would you speak to? Jim, are you good? Okay. Well, I will, since it's on the agenda, I will bring up what Mr. Mayor, do you want me to bring up what you discussed with me about it?
Well, did we put this on the table? We have a motion to put it on the table? Or it's not a resolution?
Yeah, it's not a resolution, it's new business.
It's just new business. Actually, Mr. Denmark asked me to put it on there, and I thought he was gonna open that up discussion.
Well, then they'll answer Dave's question that you want us to talk about what you spoke with us about. And firstly, it was my idea to put this on there as a function of issues Dan that it is trying to present. And I guess the one thing I need to clarify, Dan, you indicated that you tried to have some an item presented on the agenda that is not on the agenda. Is that true?
Yes, that's true, but I'd like to...
Well, that kind of goes to it here, Dan. This was an ancillary document to the other information that you were requesting. So, I guess where I want to start is council administration interface. It's my understanding that the mayor can have anything put on the agenda that he or she sees fit. And any two councilors can ask for an item to be put on the agenda. Is that true?
The city manager, the mayor, and two council members.
So, but the mayor unilaterally can ask for an agenda item to be put on the agenda?
Yep.
Okay. So then my question is, if you want other items on here, why aren't they here?
I think this might be point of order. We could probably talk about that either in council discussion.
So what the heck do you want me to talk about here? You know, this is our hierarchical chart as accepted by a resolution by the council. And I believe the issue is, you know, the installation of new directorship positions is the issue that you were trying to bring forward?
We have appointed positions that are not on this flow chart. And so it's, I don't understand how that happened.
Billed or unbilled?
Well, and I thought that interim may be the case as well, from our conversation.
Okay, but
And I suggest, we can have the council discussion about why your item that got put in the agenda. Would it be simpler just to wait until you return to the next regular meeting to discuss the actual chart?
I mean, I thought that the purpose of this flow chart was that we, as a council, in collaboration with the administration at the time, defined what we felt was the best composition of the administration. And we used this flow chart to represent the hierarchy, and we passed it by resolution as what was recommended at the time to us. So that seemed to have, in my mind, it was a precedent that council would amend this flow chart if needed, not the administration. So I guess.
Okay, so I will lay it out to make it clear for everybody since we're getting confused here. Our flow chart does not have a director of administration. And it's my understanding that administration has appointed a director of administration when that position does not exist within the flow chart, but it is in code that says we shall have a director of administration. But what you asked for to be on the agenda was part of the code says that there will be a director of administration appointed by, I think it says appointed by the city manager and then approved by the city council. And your request was to have the second part of that, have to determine whether council was going to approve the appointment of the director of administration. Is that accurate?
Right. That's correct.
Okay, and I'm not quite getting it here, Dan. Apparently you talked about this with Dave and myself. And so, and while you're kind of going mealy-mouthed here, come on, let's try to get past it here. Incorporate it in the conversation. Just because it's in code, it was an unfilled position for many years. We also have provisions for an executive assistant and a deputy clerk, all of which can be perceived as roses by a different name. So if there's an issue here, somebody just please spit it out.
Clearly that is an issue, is why was the executive assistant, if it's true, appointed as a director of administration? That would be the question.
So back when Mark was here, when he was redoing this, didn't he have that position on here? And was already talking about, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, about Diana being that, since she was kind of, I could be mistaken, but I feel like we discussed it back when he brought it up before. When he brought this to us a year or so ago.
I don't recall that. I'm not saying it didn't happen, it probably did. But on the other hand, that's not what we approved. Council approved these positions. And that's why this is being addressed.
And why does this have to be addressed at this meeting? Why is this a temporally sensitive issue, if it is?
Does it have anything to do with money?
I don't know.
Okay, so
Jim would like to speak. Maybe he can help.
In fact, thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I don't want to bleed into what's our new number B, but I see an opportunity here because we need some housekeeping, just not entitled to, but across the board. And, I think we can have a whole lot of clarification, housekeeping, and updating, and resolve this issue where your duties were residing with the assistant city manager, and the council passed one thing, and we were conflicted with the organizational chart. And that's, like I said, I see an opportunity to just completely have a fresh start in the fresh code, and everybody will understand, so we won't get on the merry-go-round that, we all get caught up in every once in a while when there's a slip or a mess. So.
Thank you. Yes, I second the motion. This is, again, a symptom of the essence of our problems. We have conflicting dictums and mandates in code, and we're in the middle of one right now. How important is it? Does it need to be addressed now? But it is something that hopefully would be sorted out in a general cleanup.
Well, it might be something that we can give advice to the city manager to where we want to head with it. We're on the subject of updating the municipal code. So I have a question on that. Is there something, because I noticed other cities have a very similar position. Is there a mandate for a director of administration within the municipality?
No. Every community is different. In most cases, if there's some type of position, it's a little unusual. We probably have to go back many years to find, where that was and where that was adopted. And usually when that happens, as in a lot of our code and a lot of our resolution, it's a reaction to something or a perceived need or actual need, and that's how it happens. But So just to throw this out there, because right now, that position is, covering personnel human resources, and we don't have a specific, box for that person, and it's kind of, other duties is assigned, so there is a great opportunity to clean this up and address, the unmet needs or things that are needlessly on.
Okay, so that we're in discussion of that. The two things I'll comment on. I did a little bit of research online with that, and I'll just say that the city of Kodiak, I think, has a very clean Title II. And if we're going to work on Title II, rather than start from scratch, I think we could take from that. But they have actually, the city manager is the city manager, but he's also the chief administrative officer, and it's called the deputy something. Their assistant city manager is the deputy chief, and it all flowed really well to me. And I would just say this, that I'm going to talk for myself. When I approved the way back when of having an assistant city manager, had I known that there was, it was my fault, but I wasn't aware that we had a director of administration position in code, I would have supported, rather than hiring an assistant city manager, potentially as hired director of administration. The bottom line is I would not have supported both, and I don't support both. We're a very small city, and we would have more directors than we would in the office. We'd have more directors than we would have employees. I don't know what words to use. But anyway, my feeling is that we're just stacking the deck too high on that. So, but yes, we need to redo it. Peter's been on that for a long time, and if you have, I guess my feeling is if you have some ideas of what sewer did or whatever, and if you'll please look at Kodiak. I just thought Kodiak had the way they worded things was there was clarity there. I really liked it. I didn't read everything, but they had a very nice. They seem to be very descriptive and very black and white.
I know their city manager, Mike Trevedian. I'll take a look at their chart, and I'll call him and ask him how it evolved to that point.
Yeah, I didn't look at the chart. All I read was the city manager, city manager, a couple of things. But it just seemed like, compared to ours, it was it seemed to work together very well.
And please keep in mind that we are a second-class city, a city manager form of government with a significantly smaller population, and our system should be reflected essentially by our population as our city is defined.
Anybody else have anything for that? Then we will move on to approval of contract between City of Whittier and Catalyst Consulting Services.
I thought that was going to be, so did we already go into Whittier Municipal Code?
Yes, do you want to speak to that, Mr. Mayor? Yeah, we definitely did. We kind of ran it together because it seems to be one and the same.
Okay, so in addition to the Director of Administration, you pointed out to me that there is actually, I'm looking at the wrong email, but I thought you sent me something about I didn't see it, but you have something about a deputy city manager in our code as well?
No, that was Kodiak. So I was just showing you how other cities, how their director of administration is incorporated into it. And it was simply that, I don't think I gave you the city managers, but what I sent you was the city of Kodiak's job description in Title II, what's in Title II for basically for their assistant city manager. They call them deputies something manager, but I was just showing you that their director of administration is incorporated right into the city manager, assistant city manager. And I just thought, I thought it was a clean way of doing it. And I thought maybe there was a mandate for director of administration, because the way our code has director of administration, I thought it was like it has to be there. It was kind of a separate by itself. It didn't say anything other than there shall be one. So I think it falls to what Jim said. It's probably something happened when they figured out we need one. They wrote a one-sentence code.
So, what appears to be more of a default for smaller communities of our size is to put a number of these, and we had this actually before the creation of the executive assistant, and that is essentially we had a clerk and we had a deputy clerk. And where that scales very well for a community our size is that eventually the clerk ends up taking, every year they have a month of vacation time. I don't know what it maxes out to, but it's 5 weeks or 6 weeks. And by having a deputy clerk, then you always have, as long as they work it out together, you end up having coverage. And when you have essentially a single point of service, then that doesn't work out well for, basically you have to find somebody and give them those duties, and you end up with something that's not as consistent. And the state recognizes the importance of the clerk, and they have, essentially annual training that allows for a community our size to get consistency in that position, so that we have, we've got anything that the state or federal level that has changed, it's updated, and our clerk receives that information in a timely manner, so we don't fall behind. Whereas if we create our own hodgepodge thing, that we have to manage those changes, and it seems like we're trying, if we manage it ourselves, we're taking on more than we need to. By following in the, essentially the recommended path for communities our size, that we make our lives a lot simpler, and we end up with a better performing administration. That's it.
Okay, I'll comment to that, and I did not read Kodiak's, but I think if you do look at Kodiak's Title 2, you'll see that there's an overlap of a lot of the duties. And I think that's specifically what you're referring to is so that you have cross-training. And I think that the city manager and assistant city manager in Kodiak have virtually the same jobs to some respect, but one's a deputy, one's the chief, but they do that specifically so you don't have that loss during vacation time. And I think it would go on the same line, so I think that's, I agree with it. I don't know if we, funding the deputy clerk or changing if we have a receptionist, change the receptionist to deputy clerk, but certainly having more than one person that can do a job is beneficial, especially if somebody quits, gets hurt, or whatever. So we good, Dan? Move on?
Yep.
Okay. Now we're on to the contract for Catalyst Consulting.
Thank you. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here because I'm still about 100 years in new. So my question is going to be, and I talked to staff about this, about the contract, and also there's some concern, from the public and members of commissions here, is was this sent out on an RFP or was this a sole contract?
As far as I know, it's a sole contract. It was decided on, and Andy might be able to talk to us a little bit. I think Mark Lynch had decided on this Catalyst Consulting, but I don't remember it being sent out to bid.
Okay, I just, my intent was just a little bit, nothing against them, but, for transparency and trying to avoid, any missteps in the past, we might want to consider an RFP.
Is there a dollar amount that dictates when something gets sent out to bid?
No, we have to, well, when we send it out, we have criteria we have to meet, and they're going to send in their prospectus and their experience, and they can run anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000, and we would be somewhere in between. Because we want quality product, We want it narrowly focused, we want your land use, zoning development, everything in there. Lots of public input, and it's just, as much as I would love to do this, you know, professionally, ethically, I would recommend we go out to art. And as much as I would like to get going on this and have it be the Great Winter Project for everybody to focus on. Peter, I'm just asking for your guidance.
And to follow that up, Mr. Hunt, I think we've got a lot of hotter things presented from the council, and a comp plan update, though important, I don't is not crucial at this moment. And we experienced numerous instances of patronage under Mr. Lynch's leadership while we were here. That went from architects to mechanics, and it may have reached this far as well, and I would fully support the transparency notion and put this up for our
I would follow that exactly. I would say it not just for this project, but for anything else you come across. We don't, temporarily at least, but if you're not comfortable with it, bring it to us. Simply. And yes, it would be loved to. It would be great to get it done. But on the other hand, there's probably still time to get it started where, you have the meetings during the winter and they do the compilation in the summer too. So I think that's one of the things on my list that I want to get done before I go. But absolutely, if you're not comfortable with it, and I understand that, and what Peter said is exactly true.
So that's consensus, move towards that?
Yes.
So, one thing, Mr. Hunt, is in this scope of services and it defines. I understand what it was trying to define in terms of scope of services, but as far as somebody that's going to bid on this, this actually looks like those scopes are more geographic than they are essentially goal-oriented. And I sent a couple of council members just a basic outline, and I was just wondering if I could get some feedback from council as far as if there might be an opportunity to do either have a different look at these goals and scopes, because from these I don't see a master plan coming out of some of this stuff versus one thing that's not even listed is economic development, and economic development impacts as a master plan impacts land use, housing, transportation, and public facility and services. Anyway, it's a different method of looking at it. And I was just wondering if there are other council members that are interested in having another look at those scopes, because I think it's a foundation from which we're going to build and have expectations of whoever the winning bidder is.
And Mr. Mayor, if we go out, and you send a request for proposals, I think you're going to find it remarkable that the actual breadth and depth of what the community's vision is and needs, and there is a geocentric aspect to this without the full spectrum of what the community wants regarding future land use, economic development. So I think it reveal itself and unfold itself with the proposals.
Okay, so the people that will be bidding on this project will come up with their own suggestions. Is that what you're?
Everybody has the basic same format, but there are varying degrees of expertise and how in depth they go. But they're all the same. They're all the same. And we're not focusing on one particular area, or just 5 projects. It's a broad development with full community input, council input, because it's their plan. And and if you like, I could quote a couple of examples, maybe reduce it and send it to council, just so you can see what a good plan looks like. It didn't cost $75,000. I can do that.
Okay, I was just concerned that we were, as long as you don't, anyway, it sounds, I mean, this scope, in this contract seems very, narrow, in terms of, it's talking about actual, it strikes me as geographic locations rather than, actual plan, broad brush plan, but, yeah, I'm open to, I'm definitely open for more information.
Mr. Mayor, just to support what you said, I agree 100%. When I read this very close, or very quickly, but, I've spoken this before, the last comp plan I do not put a lot of weight on, and the reason I don't is because of the way it was presented to the public. It wasn't, do you want to paint the building? It was, do you want the building painted blue or green? There was no option of, I don't want the building painted, or I don't want the building. It was simply what color we're going to paint. And then I see this, and, the comp plan should be a complete review of the comp plan, not just these single items. So what I suspected is that they were going to do this for $33,000, and we were going to run into it. Well, what about the other 25 items? Well, that's going to cost more. Is what I saw from this. I could be wrong. That's exactly what I saw.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I just saw it at the tip of the iceberg.
Money?
We're coming up on a deadline pretty soon with the Army Corps of Engineers. Not really a deadline, they're not going to be thinking about sticking a shovel in the ground or anything until 2020. However, I went to a Port Harbor Commission meeting, and there are some people that are cherry picking items off of lists and bringing up the comprehensive plan. And so this is where like scoping comes in to be really important, that we don't kill what we've already paid $1 million for. Anyway, I'd like to keep that in advisement, that there are ongoing projects that are, and some of the things on the old comprehensive plans are deemed by some that we need to follow that particular order from the old comp plan, and it's starting to get pretty complicated between different council and commissions, and I really hope that we can all work together and not waste a lot of years of effort to get to where we're at now. As far as the scoping part goes, Jim, thank you.
In the scope of the comp plan as a functional tool, there's a lot of fluff in there. There's the history of the city that will need to get updated since the last update, because a lot has happened in the last couple of years. But Dan used the term a master plan, a term I have used before too. I think a development plan is probably is easier on the ears, and should be a component of the comp plan, but it's a standalone exercise. And I don't know how much outside help we need to actually get this done. I think you've all heard my rant in here more than once. We could be able to do, given the available developable land in Whittier, there's only really 3 parcels other than what may happen going on Shotgun Cove Road, and we're all going to be 20 years dead before we get there. So this is something that could easily be done in-house, but the development of a development plan is a significant component and will be a driver for the other issues that the mayor brought up: transportation, economy, issues, fiscal at the same time. So before we even get into the comp plan, I think the council should prepare a vision of where do we fill in the blanks that still exist in our area of influence here on the city of Whittier Moraine.
So should we have some work sessions during the winter?
That would probably be prudent. I think I've expressed an idea that we just kind of, the work is essentially done. by administrations past if we can dig it out. And as a function of a development plan into the comp plan, most of it is unfunded, only conceptually designed, but that's what it's there for. It's a statement of what we want to be, who we want to be. We still have ongoing concerns, actions with the railroad and the master lease. We've kind of abandoned our move to the legislature to address the master lease with the changes we experienced this spring. But if we ever get back to that, if I was going to go to the Alaska legislature and discuss issues surrounding the master lease and land issues, if I were them, the first question I would ask is, what do you want it for? And we have to get there. If we want to separate some lands from the railroad by a negotiation or legislative action, we should have a plan of what we want to do, not just because we think we should have them. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
We actually started on that when Tom Bowman was here, and he actually was quite good at assembling it. But my question is, I wonder if there's notes anywhere on that, because I don't remember those meetings. I don't know if it was here, but it was kind of like a capital projects wish list to a point, but we did have a list, and I think every council member submitted their list, and he compiled it and rated it. But I don't know whatever happened to it.
I'm thinking about a simple land use plan for development.
It wasn't specifically land use, it was like...
Yeah, but this would be dialed into a development or even land use plan versus development plan.
And when we did do that, one of the discussions we had is that the comprehensive plan may be updated every 5 or 10 years, but that should be updated probably annually because it's tied to money that's going to flow. So, you can get things off the list. So it would be a subsidiary of the comp plan, kind of.
It would be a component of the comp plan, and it would be more fluid as a function of available funding for ideas if we can get around to applying for grants on time to take advantage of available funding.
Yeah, I think it's an important part of the comp plan, maybe the most important part. So, yeah. I think Jim understands the word.
Excuse me. One other thing. I kind of had to take responsibility as a council for that lease transfer from a coffee shop took 2 years to accomplish, and I'm thinking, how do you run a city like that?
I can answer that.
Two agreeable people want to conduct a small piece of business, and because of the minutia and everything that this council goes through, it takes 2 years.
Yeah, but to me, that was an example of some of the disconnect between council and administration. The transference of leases.
What does that have to do with what we're discussing?
I don't know. I'm responding to Monty's issue.
Let's put it in council discussion going.
All right.
Anything more on the comp plan? Mr. Mayor, anything left for a comp plan?
No, I think I might refer to the comp plan in council discussion.
Okay. Then moving on to resolutions, Madam Clerk.
Resolution 25-2018, a resolution certifying the results of the October 2nd, 2018 regular election. And would you like to? I didn't read out the results, if you don't mind. Just for the record.
Certainly.
So, for Council Seat A, 3-year term ending in October 2021, Victor Shen with 73 votes. City Council Seat D, 3-year term ending in October 2021, Monty Irvin with 54 votes. And this is including the absentee votes that we canvassed just earlier today.
Very good. Congratulations. Now we have a resolution. Move motion to approve the resolution.
Move to approve resolution 25-2018 is written.
-2018.
Okay, since Monty's involved in it, I'll accept the mayor's
Second.
Second. Dan?
So,
Any discussion?
Dan? Okay.
No discussion, call for the vote.
Calling for a vote. Dan Blair.
Yes.
Peter Dunbar.
Yes.
Deborah Hicks.
Yes.
Dave Dixon.
Yes.
Victor Shen.
Yes.
And Monty Irvin.
Yeah.
Motion passes. Resolution is adopted.
Do I get a vote too?
Oh, Dave Dixon.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, moving on to council discussion. Bonnie, you want to start with your? I guess Peter's back to answering your.
And I was just going to point it out as an example of one of the disconnects that we have with our code. It is written into our code that lease transfers will be facilitated by the city manager. It's a city manager's discretion thing. Our previous city manager came to us on numerous occasions and says, I'm bringing this to you so I don't make anybody mad, for whatever reason. Whether that was prudent on his part or not, I don't know. But one of the things that I noticed going through that process, and it went back to a number of them, there was the Enix lease, the Paddler's Realm transfer, the Orca transfer, the Marpet transfer, of all facilitated with council input. A number of those individuals were asked for different information to determine if different information was required by the city on each, if not a couple or three of the occasions. And those parameters are listed quite specifically in code that goes to a business plan, building use, insurance. Some people were asked for credit check information, some were not. Anyway, it should be a consistent process and something that should just sit firmly on the city manager's desk as long as we're organized. And the issues that the Orca experienced, those issues would have existed whether it was sitting in front of the council or not, and the city staff was insistent on going through those steps regardless of some of our opinions. Anyway, it got done, but anyway, I don't understand. We're out of our code when we have to address all the lease issues at the same time. If things are consistent, it should just be up to the city manager, period. As written by our code, it's not my opinion.
Yeah, thank you. It's, the code, again, in this case, is a mess. It's a mess. I mean, doing background checks on, guaranteeing performance, credit ratings. We can streamline this as part of our, overhaul. Yeah, and disposing of, second class city, disposing of city property is still, yes, city manager has authority, but it should always be with council input, always, always, always. And there is a way to streamline this, because that's one of the first things I was working with you, and on that, never make a street this long. It shouldn't take 2 years.
And with all due respect, sir, I would like to see the code done before the comprehensive plan is done. Because we're putting efforts into getting things done. We have a comprehensive plan, so it's like 5, 10 years old, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. It gets argued about, but we have to live by the code. Like, I don't know, it's like a daily basis kind of thing. We need to straighten that out before we get too far into the weeds with this comprehensive, in my opinion, because we have other things that are conjoined with this, particularly the head of the Army, and just getting our ducks in a row. I think the code is.
As you know, this is my primary concern sitting at this council table is getting this done. The comprehensive plan, there are update mandates, temporal update mandates that we have to do, and our code should be fixed just simply by common sense that we need to get to here. So in terms of, I will agree with Councilor Urban entirely as in terms of a priority, but revamping the code is going to be a cumbersome and tedious process with a lot of detail work involved as time goes by. And I don't know that we can hinge that finish date on starting the comp plan date and still fulfill the mandates that we have to update our comp plan.
And I want to say something about too, since Orca Cafe brought up and said it's 2 years. It was not 2 years. It's two different buyers. It was one buyer came along and it didn't happen in time, so they backed out, and the second buyer came along. And we corrected the problems in between. So stating that it took 2 years to do that isn't very accurate statement of how the city operated. And I also, personally, I saw it the other way. I think the city, the administration bent over backwards to try to get this done for Orca Cafe. And I mean, there was a lot of things wrong. And I mean, the lot lines were wrong. We would have been giving them property that wasn't theirs. The building was in the wrong place, and there was a tremendous amount of issues with it. And you know, you can go to a point. I'm trying to buy a house right now, and we're stuck right now because the contract says Lake Shore Avenue, and it's 2 words instead of 1. So we're having to go back and rewrite the whole contract because there's supposed to be a space between lake and shore. And that's getting carried away. But this property had exceptional issues, and the city needed to correct it. And you know, I agree. The correction should have been done a long time ago. It's been brought up many times. You know, and our past city manager, Mark Lynch, was supposed to address those issues and didn't do it. So we asked for a fault. But on the other hand, to say that it took 2 years to do it isn't really accurate. And there are other options. You know, the guy could have leased it until it sold. So I think I for one think the city stepped up to try to get it done. It was just too much. There was just too much to sign off on it and tell it correct. I don't know all the issues, but I kind of, you know, it's kind of like when it did get sold. You know, that all of a sudden they come to us and we got to have a special meeting because they want it sold tomorrow. You know, we have meetings once a month. Was it that big an issue that had to be done within 2 weeks? I mean, it's kind of thing. There's definitely the city was at fault, but I think the administration, when it got to the sell last year, I think the city administration did everything they could, and I think we spent a lot of money trying to fix it too, by the way. So I don't think it was all just failure on the city's part. Anything else for council discussion? Mr. Mayor,
I'd like to if you guys would just be patient with me on this, because it's a little bit of a convoluted thing, but you know, one of the most important things in terms of a productive council and a productive administration is mutual respect and transparency, so that we have a lot of confidence that the administration is moving forward and conveying what they're doing to us, doing for us. And I'm just repeating what I see as a timeline here. I'm not interested in a witch hunt. I'm not interested in, you know, who said, she said, any of that. I just want to convey what my perception of what happened, okay? Council was, we took the time as volunteers to sit in on a workshop. And the workshop was essentially, you know, it was put together by administration, and it was suggested that we had this director of administration, and the outcome of that workshop was that administration thought that they needed more people involved, and that they were going to essentially appoint on an interim basis a director of administration. And I found out a couple of weeks ago, I actually asked during the previous regular meeting, was that still an interim or was it a full appointment? And it comes to find out at some point it became a full appointment, and I got a little frustrated because we as a council, we need to know these things. It's important for us to know these things in order for us to properly support administration and work collaboratively with administration. And so as a result of that frustration, I asked for our part of an appointment is a confirmation in this particular director. And the reason why it's in the code that way is essentially it's an assistant city manager job as is defined in our code. And for some reason it didn't get on the agenda. I would ask, I know that there's some chaos currently going on in the administration in terms of finance. And so I understand that your hands are full, but I would appreciate when I take the time out of my day to ask for something to be on the agenda, if you feel strongly that it doesn't need to be on the agenda, to reach out to and to let's kind of work together, because that's going to give the best product to our community. And I'm really, really pleased to be a member of this council. This is the best council that I have ever had the privilege to serve on. And I would be very pleased for administration to work with us. And I think we got some good people on the administration, and I have every expectation that we're going to get through this current situation that we find ourselves in, and we're going to work through some pretty sticky stuff. We got the railroad and things like that, but the only way we're going to get a good outcome, in my opinion, is if we kind of reset and look at the broad brushstrokes. Our Title II is in shambles. There is not a good reason to have two city managers, and so it would be nice if we could do a reset. And it's not a finger pointing exercise or an accusation exercise. Let's all agree that this is it's not a tenable situation, and we need to work towards a viable outcome. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Oh, I just one more thing. Is there any interest in a workshop with regard to the points that Peter was making in terms of it wasn't a comprehensive plan.
Development plan.
Would you kind of repeat that?
The development plan is what we're looking for.
Or a land use plan.
Land use, well, probably land use and development, so future development.
So,
The answer is yes.
That workshop, like the hour before the regular council meeting, or we could have it, on the Tuesday that the normal workshop would be. On the third Tuesday, if you want to have the workshop then. A lot of times we can convene, at 6 o'clock before the regular meeting, we can get a workshop like this in, because it might just, in an hour's time, we can either find out that we need quite a bit more work, or at least solve a quarter of it or something.
Peter.
To answer that, Dan, I think a significant component of developing that plan is what we may choose to do with the head of the bay over time. I don't remember the year, but PN&D did a conceptual design for a 5-phase development plan for the head of the bay. Nice big fancy chart, and there was an accompanying financial analysis that basically read funding not yet available. But if we wanted to install an idea for the head of the bay, it is still consistent with most things that we're discussing here. And I've mentioned this to a couple of people in the administration, and maybe Scott, maybe the most likely victim here, to find that design, that plat. It was on a scroll that was about 8 feet long and covered the whole wall and the old council room. And I don't know if that can pop up out of the archives, but I think that that would be a very efficient first step in going forward with land use planning. We can review the parameters of that, and if they're still essentially consistent with our thinking, you can just install it and it's done. Then the only other property we have to think about is the Glacier Avenue property right here, the Whittier Manor lease, which is pretty much in their hands right now. The city has offered them a lease 2 years ago. They have not replied. And then once again, we're going out to Shotgun Cove Road, and I'm not holding my breath for that one. So basically, it's the Glacier Avenue property, the manor, and the head of the bay are the undeveloped lands in Whittier right now.
So the timeline in which PN&D did that exercise, was that before Scott came on board?
No, he was
Or
here.
just trying to...
2007, 9.
He said he was here, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Scott's indicating 2008, and he is, if you are aware of the big thing. Okay. And I would make one point. I agree that Peter's a great starting point, but he said we could refine it and install it. I would say we would refine it and submit it to the people that are going to do the comp plan as a starting point for discussion for the community, not just that we're going to install it as the council.
I wouldn't disagree with that. The council has to have an opinion here, though.
All right, I mean, we would send that to the community, but I think you'll find the community today would be, the day lodge and all their stuff up there probably isn't realistic. But then we're back to the other issue is all of that is pie in the sky until we own land. None of that has basis on owning land.
But if you aspire to land, you need to have a use in mind for it, is my essential point.
Yeah, but how much money do you spend on studies when you don't?
Hopefully zero if we can dig up the old one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking for an easy way home here. We don't have to reinvent this wheel again.
So maybe we could have, I think we may have been through this point before, but it wouldn't hurt to revisit it. I think Scott may have some contacts in PN&D, and maybe they could come, basically find remnants of that project and share it with us. If they have copies on there.
So I would strongly recommend to the city manager to dump this project on Scott.
Objection.
Noted.
Okay. Well, that's...
What a nice wall there.
Is there interest in doing having a workshop prior to the upcoming regular meeting?
That would be my preference rather than another day.
Okay. Is there enough interest, or is it just...
Yes, there is. You're going to have some bobbleheads here.
My question is it going to be on the third Tuesday or before the regular meeting on October 30th?
before the regular meeting on October.
Yeah.
On when? October 30th?
October 30th.
Just in October, we postponed until the 30th.
So, the day before Halloween,
And
Dress
this is
appropriately.
gonna be- This is gonna be at 6 PM? Okay,
the workshop, yeah.
gotcha.
Okay, and Dan, back to your first comment of the, not getting your item on the agenda. I would, there's several issues with that probably are better not spoken out loud, other than I would suggest that when time is available, that you and I and Jim have discussions to know where to move forward with it. If you would agree to that.
Yeah, that's fine, but Jim, you're fixing to head out on a vacation at the end of this week, aren't you?
Real soon, Thursday.
Yeah. Oh, Thursday, okay.
Well, if the meeting's not until the 30th, we might have time, but it's not a pressing issue in some respects, but it is you brought up the point of the code, and half the code is followed, so it should be resolved. Either we decide something needs to be resolved until we change the Title II or whatever. There should be a resolution to it since it's been questioned, is what I'm getting at.
If I may, I want to get back to the two questions I asked at the start of the meeting, because especially since we have a number of people on city staff working under an interim banner, that we are on the same page here. Is it acceptable for the mayor to ask for an agenda item to be posted and have it be so? Can the mayor ask for something to be on the agenda and have it be there?
We just went through that.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. And any two counselors can request an item to be put on the agenda, and that then would be put on the agenda.
Correct.
Thank you.
Where in code does that say that?
It's in the powers. It's in the charter in the code in the very beginning. It describes the powers and authorities, authority described to each position.
We went through this last winter, same thing, and it was the end result was the same answer. So I guess I would ask the question: is maybe it was missed? Who should the councilors / mayor request to have it on the agenda? Should it go through the city manager to the city clerk, or directly to the city clerk?
My response would be to the city manager, to the clerk, or simultaneously. And I believe without addressing any, there was no intention to skip. But there was some confusion as to what was being looked for and what the title was going to be, let alone towards any intent. So we had some confusion there. I think the clerk would concur with that.
Well, there was a change of request, but I saw the emails. It wasn't confusing to me.
So, anyway, there's an opportunity for improvement. I'm looking forward to working with administration and getting everybody on their feet and reducing the stress that's happening in our brand new building. And see more conventional work done instead of people wearing. We're going to have to put some more hat backs in there if everybody keeps doing as much as they're doing right now. So I'm looking forward to getting some progress made. And I hope you guys have fun in that executive session tomorrow.
Peter.
And our next regularly scheduled meeting is the last day of this month. And I know that we're losing Mr. Hunt for a while here. So the first thing I'd like to do is, and our budget is right around the corner here. I would like to discuss the Girdwood Police contract at the next meeting if I can get support from any other councilors to have that conversation. It won't have a significant impact on our 2019 budget, but it certainly would in 2020. And if we decide not to go with Girdwood, it will have an impact on how we're trying to fill our public safety director position at the same time. So I would rather be proactive in generating an opinion about the Girdwood contract rather than waiting for the last minute to come to us in the middle of next summer.
So, do you want an opinion about the Girdwood contract, or do you want?
I want to discuss it, and I will feel free to offer my opinion at that time.
Yeah. So, what I was hoping to get is essentially a one-year contract, and make sure that that contract is fulfilled at a higher priority than any other police contract that we get involved with, including the tunnel.
That thought is a component of the Girdwood contract for sure. So,
Yes.
so in this meeting is.
For a workshop?
I don't think it needs a workshop. I think we want to discuss, be it a workshop or just to discuss the Girdwood contract at the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, let's put it on the, it's under new business or old business, whatever you like.
Okay, Don, the question whether you want an executive session because it is a contract and can affect finance.
I think we're just looking for, we have concerns of service, isn't that right, Peter? Or is that a price thing?
That's where my concern comes from, Dan.
Well, unless Mr. Hunt feels that it needs to be an executive session, there were a number of things and expectations that I believe did not happen the way we were hoping with regard to that Girdwood contract.
Boy, this is a knife that can cut both ways. Because in the event we decided to move ahead, we'll compromise our position. It would be publicly printed, stated, and reiterated from the towns to Girdwood. An executive session would be appropriate. And we can speak more freely to that and address some other concerns for the public and each other, within the confines without compromising ourselves.
I think it's appropriate.
So, Mr. Hunt, would you work with our clerk and make sure that that gets on our regular agenda?
Yes.
You're not going to be here tomorrow for the emergency? Mayor? Dan?
Yeah, no, you won't.
Thought he was going to be here, sorry.
Any other council discussion?
Is that what it's going to be, an executive session tomorrow?
Yes.
If I may just take advantage for a couple minutes here, and let everybody get out. I spoke with Mr. Gilman today, and I know there's some interested and active property owners who have ended up with boats and ended up with derelicts, and he approached us again. I don't know how the council feels with this. I have my concerns because, it's just a few people that if the council elected to donate, 10 to 15,000, because it's going to be a heavy pull when it comes to transporting them. And I appreciate the effort because we don't want to be the town where boats go to die. It could be somewhere else in the Kenai. And we all know there's a lot of them here. But if the council under beautification, we seriously, we're probably looking at about a $15,000 contribution if we're going to contribute to that. Like I said, the optics are kind of awkward, but on the other hand, they are being proactive and working towards that. In order to do, they're already working, most of they're already working on some boats and identified other boats. But if the council was inclined to contribute, to the cost share to the project, they'd probably take a meeting, consensus here to direct it, to maybe, add it to a quick meeting. And I also just want to clarify something regarding the borough feasibility study. We did not give $1 to the Girdwood Government Association. We contracted directly with Insight. And I think there's some misinformation that we're, are part and parcel and obligated and maybe handed over some authority as far as what's going to come out of that. And we have not done that, so I just want to make that clear. But if council is interested in the beautification, generally vote disposal contribution, and I'll be glad to move forward with the consensus.
Jim,
Yeah.
if it's that large of a dollar amount, perhaps you could bring a resolution forward, and that would give the council an opportunity to weigh in at that time. But if consensus is what you need right now, I certainly would give my consent.
Okay, can you take a consent, Sam?
Ask a question. Are we the only ones forking out money for this? Are the other parties involved?
Other parties that are contributing equipment, labor, employees, yes. And that's a little unique, and that's kind of a little cumbersome, but it achieves goals that I think we all recognize, need to be addressed.
Yeah, I support it, and there is a cost to us, we're probably going to recover in a sense, but, there is a limited amount of space for storage, so if we move some of these derelict boats that aren't receiving income, you're talking about improving the income to businesses and taxes in the city, so and property taxes that can go a long way, so I suppose over a 100-year plan, you can probably recover it, but the second part of that reason I supported this, and I think it's something that I would like to see addressed maybe to Ports and Harbor sometime, but there's one boat in particular, I won't go into details on it, but there has been times when the harbor has called a private company and said, will you come get this boat? And then they come get the boat, get it off the lot, whatever, blah, 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 and it sits, and the owner doesn't pay, and then in one particular case, the city wouldn't allow the property owner to get rid of it because the city was in litigation with it. So I think there needs to be some sort of policy. If we're going to tell a company to come get a boat, in my opinion, we're liable for it to a point too. So anyway, I think this will help clear some of that up too. But I don't know if I talked to you, but I did talk to Kyle about it. There's one particular boat that it was crazy what's going on. But no secret. It's Larry. I told Larry to send the city a bill. I said they'll start a conversation. He's had the boat there for like 4 years. But then you got to go back to what exactly was said about coming to get the boat. I don't know the answer to that. But anyway, yes, I definitely support it in multiple ways. Nothing else, we'll move on to citizen discussion. Oh, yes, sir. Oh, well, sorry. Victor?
There's been a lot of being on the drone back of code, and I just want to know, are we moving toward? Turn me off.
I think we're done.
Are we moving toward doing anything?
Well, we had one of the spring meetings.
Like you've been talking about the code here for.
Yeah, how we're going to get there is yet to be discussed. It was discussed in a spring meeting. The council requested to administration to get some budget numbers from a company called Unicode and any other comparable to find out how much it would cost to outsource this. That exercise was never done. So to me, that was step one. Is this going to be, to what degree will this be internal, to what degree will it be external? So
I feel like it's important. I feel like everyone else here does as well. I just want to know if we're going to be doing something.
What's the plan?
Yeah.
I believe I received my marching orders. Because there's several aspects, like Unicode and others. There are some who post it, take our codes, and codify and post it. More often than not, it's the firms, the law firms that participate, and there are other entities, that also will do it. But familiarity is key. It's really key in the process, and to know the culture of the community. That's where there's a big advantage, oftentimes, with the firm that we're offering this law. And they have, I don't want to call them boilerplates, but they also work with other communities, and they have, like you mentioned, Kodiak, they have information, up-to-date information, where the council and the public will just kind of groom it, to what's best for us.
And one question on that, and I don't know, do you know Christy? She She was a clerk. She helped us out with some stuff. And, you know, I don't know what her hourly rate is, but I'll bet you it's 25% of what attorneys are. And to set some of the code, I would think she would be appropriate for the Title II and stuff like that. And if we need to completely revamp it, I think that's an option. And she's been a clerk for years. I mean, she's very in depth. So I mean, that's just something to look at. And I'm sure somebody has her contact information. Christy Smith. Yes.
I know she is.
Thanks.
Okay, we good? All right. Get another chance.
Thank you, Council. I'll make mine short and sweet. You don't have a written report in front of you. I'm going to actually, I think, go away from that and come talk to you every time about it. I can also go back to a written report, whatever you guys want. I think really the reason we started this a year and a half ago was to better inform the council from the school's perspective and to work on a positive working relationship between the city and the school. I think we've come a long ways with that. I don't want that to slip, so I will continue to work on that. But one of the things, that came out of this was the city taking over the night gym activities. So I want to make sure that we do continue that, all of those activities in a positive note. So I am going to still keep coming. I want to start off by thanking your police department. We, as you all know, have had a lot of bear activity the last few weeks. Last week in particular, really the bear's still there and hanging around, right? I see him every morning when I walk to school. He comes and hangs out at the cafeteria window in the morning until somebody shoos him off, right? But I just want to thank your police department because response was quick when the problem first started, and then they would do. I have an apartment on the backside, so I can see when they do patrols. They are doing them before I walk to work in the morning, and then last week, especially when the bear was super active, they were sitting there while kids would have potentially been walking across the street. So I know the police department in Whittier doesn't always get a good rap sometimes right now, but I just want you guys to know how much we appreciate that as a school, that they were there to put our kids first and the citizens of Whittier first. And I just want to make sure that you guys know that. A couple things that have been happening at the school. We just got back a couple weeks ago from an in-service where we're looking to revamp some of our standards. As you all know, we're a standards-based, performance-based, project-based system. We are looking, our last revisions of our standards was in 2008, so we are looking to revise those, revamp those, improve those. We're starting with math standards and going to work through our 10 content areas. I don't know how long that will take. I'm guessing probably going to be a 2-year process for us because we will rewrite and then redo assessments from start to finish. So it will not be a quick project, but there will be time and a place for community input. If you go back to, and we're here when Chugach School District started a proficiency-based program, a lot of that happened because of the community involvement. We went from statistically no one graduating and going on to college to increasing our graduation rates. Everybody talks about the awards we've won. Those awards were won 10, 15 years ago. I'll sit here and say we're not the award-winning district we were, but we want to be again. And it's really going to take involvement from the whole community to do that. So I will probably be here in the near future, next couple months, asking for some more involvement from council members, from business owners, because ultimately we as a school district want to make sure the kids that graduate are employable, and we want to keep those employees here, if at all possible. 2 weeks ago I was at a school safety and well-being summit in Anchorage. I thought I was going there, and I thought it would be talking about lockdown drills and locking doors and all that good stuff. It wasn't what the conference was about at all. They focused more on what it takes to be and to feel safe in schools. So we're looking at a staff of changing some things making sure that we're really meeting all of our kids' needs that goes along with the revamp of standards. So again, I would probably be looking for some input on how we can more effectively do that at the school. We took all of the kids on the RCAC field trip when CERS was in town for that drill. That was an amazing experience. Half of our kids had never been on a boat before, let alone watch the boats do what they're doing. So it was really cool to build that partnership with RCAC and Alaska Pipeline. We also, the Inn at Whittier, for the second year in a row now, has cooked our kids lunch one day. So they actually closed and then let us in that next Monday. Kids came down, made their own pizzas, put it through the oven, they showed them around the housekeeping. Again, some great community involvement, some business involvement of, hey, you are our employees, you're our next employees, this is a job you can have next summer. So that was pretty cool and to do. A couple other things coming up. We are offering all of our 11th grade students, 80 students, a free PSAT test tomorrow. They have to take that to be eligible for national scholars money. So that's happening tomorrow. We do that free of charge for our kids. We also have some parent-teacher conferences coming up next week. The big push here would be the Halloween party on Saturday, so October 27th. We've decided to do our Halloween party during that day, so the kids will have a regular school day, but we're going to have Halloween on October 27th. So if you want to come check that party out, I'm guessing kids are still going to want to trick-or-treat on the 31st, but just so you know that the school's end of that is going to be do that Saturday. We have another big field trip coming up November 2nd. We're taking all of our kids, K-12, to the Black Violin at the Performing Arts Center in Anchorage. Pretty cool trip that we'll get to do. An enrollment update. I've talked, I think this is the second time now, about an increased enrollment. We've increased it again. Our enrollment last May was 28 K-12. Our enrollment right now, K-12, is 41 and preschool is 7. So we're up 14 kids from our projected enrollment last May. For a small staff, that's a huge increase. With that being said, I have some job postings I'm going to throw out there so that if any of your summer employees are still around and are looking for jobs, I'm going to be posting a breakfast cook and janitor position. We're combining those two positions hopefully for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. Hopefully it looks more enticing to somebody. But we need to fill those positions because right now our teachers are cooking for 50 plus kids and cleaning for 50 plus kids. And it's getting overwhelming. So if you know anybody looking for a job, please send them my way. I also have an open gym, kids gym position open. It's not as much, it's an hour, 1 hour twice a week for our kids if anybody knows anybody looking for that. That's what's happening in a nutshell at the school. We're busy. We will continue probably to be busy. We're almost a quarter into the school year already. So if anybody has any questions or comments, I'd love to answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Frank? Great. Scott? Comments from Councilman? I have a motion to adjourn. Oh, hold on, I hear Mr. Mayor.
No, I was saying yes.
Oh, you got it, all right, any objections? Meeting adjourned.
All right, thanks, Ed.
That's a great update.
Thanks. Yeah, I've done updates for, well, I'm going to say 2 years now.